I'd like to introduce Sylvia from England, who takes LDN for multiple sclerosis. Good morning, Sylvia.
Good morning.
Could you tell me when you were diagnosed with MS?
I was diagnosed in 1997, although I'd had problems beforehand, but I was finally given the diagnosis then.
Okay. How old were you then?
I was 50.
Right. That's quite old, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Diagnosed.
Yeah.
How many years do you think you had it before that?
I don't know. I'd had sort of bad episodes that nobody really knew what they were. 2 or 3, I suppose, over the time when I was quite ill for about a month or so. But they disappeared and nobody really took much interest after that. And then I started dragging one of my legs, and it sort of progressed from there, really.
Right. So what impact did that have on you, being diagnosed with MS?
Well, I think I'd sort of built up to it in my mind. It was pretty direct when I saw the consultant. He didn't mince his words. He just said straight away, well, you've got MS, and that was it. You know, make an appointment to see me in 6 months. It was a bit vicious, I suppose. But, yeah, you just have to get on with it, don't you, really?
You don't have any option, do you?
Well, no, you don't. No. So, I mean, my husband was with me at the time, so I wasn't on my own. But it was still hard to take in, I suppose, eventually, really.
Yes. So, once you were diagnosed in 97, I think you said.
Yeah.
How long did it take before you found LDN?
It must have taken a couple of years. I found it through the New Pathways magazine.
Right. Okay. So before you started LDN, what would you have said your quality of life was on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the best?
I suppose about 6.
Right. And what symptoms were you experiencing by then?
Sorry?
What symptoms were you experiencing?
I started off dragging my left leg. I had a pain in my thigh and my left leg. So it was definitely my mobility that got worse.
Right.
And my doctor, I was a librarian, so I was on my feet all day. So my doctor advised that I should retire. Luckily, I was in a job where I could take early retirement. And once I retired, I went downhill pretty quickly.
Did you?
To the state that I am now, which is walking on crutches.
Okay.
But I don't seem to have deteriorated too much since then.
So, was it purely your mobility? Did you have any problems with fatigue or your blood?
Oh, yes.
Like
yeah, fatigue and balance came along after that. I've not had problems with my sight or anything.
Right.
It's been fatigue, balance and mobility, my main problems.
Okay. And once you heard about LDN, how did you go about obtaining a prescription?
Well, I had a bit of a tussle. My doctor wouldn't obviously prescribe it. I ended up going to my consultant, and it took about 18 months before he finally decided that, yes, he would give me a prescription, and very kindly, he doesn't charge me for the prescription. So I'm lucky. I get a 12-month prescription, and at that time I used to send it off to California. Because nobody was prescribing over here, or I wasn't aware anyway. So I used to get it from California until I found out about the Glasgow clinic, and then I started getting it from there.
Right. So now you've been on LDN, how long?
I suppose about 6 years it must be.
Right.
It's quite a long time.
Yes. And when you first started, did you notice any side effects?
Not side effects, no. I immediately felt a lot better, a lot more positive and less fatigue. I'm not sure that my mobility's any better, but it's certainly no worse. As I said, I've stayed on a plateau.
Right.
So I'm putting it down to the LDN because I feel so much. If there's sort of a hiccup between getting my prescription and getting the LDN, I know about it. You know, I know I'm not taking it. Bladder problems, I was always dashing before, and now they're much better. I'm far more relaxed, and I've still got to go when I've got to go, but it's not as urgent as it was.
And that makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. You feel so much better,
Mm.
don't you?
Do you have to get up in the night?
No, no.
Oh, that's good. So what would you say your quality of life is like now on that scale of 1 to 10?
It's about 8.5, 9. I have quite a good life. I've got a buggy and I get around and I go to yoga and various groups and things. So yeah, 8 or 9 is fine.
I mean, socialising is so important, isn't it? Not to exclude yourself.
That's right, yeah. I mean, I know you've got to make the effort, of course, yourself. You can't, nobody comes knocking, do they? But
No.
I go to reading groups and things like that. And my husband's very helpful, and we go to groups, the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
So life's not too bad.
I can remember when my walking had deteriorated and the balance, and I wasn't going to have a wheelchair.
No.
Mentally, I was not going to have a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And then it occurred to me, who was I harming? And it was myself, because being so pig-headed, my husband would go off with my daughter and do things, and if I felt well enough or awake enough to go, I'd sit in the car, because I couldn't get out of the car, or I'd stay at home.
That's right.
So I was excluding myself from living.
Yeah.
So I swallowed my pride and got a wheelchair, which was amazing. But then when the husband used to park me outside of shops looking in windows at things, knives and tools and things that I didn't want to look at. And I wasn't able to manoeuvre myself very well. My other body strength, I perhaps wasn't strong enough or something.
Right.
Or it was too tiring for me. But I found that I got an electric scooter, and it was wonderful, because it takes over from your legs, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you can go where you want, when you want.
That's right. And
amazing.
Right to where you want to be. Yes,
right.
I agree with that, yeah. And I do have a wheelchair, obviously, but for various occasions. But the scooter's invaluable. I wouldn't be without it.
Yes, and I found when I used to go in the supermarkets with it, you know how some people are horrified if their children talk to somebody who's in a wheelchair or something. It's just a look of horror, Anyway, this little boy came up to me on my scooter and he said, "Can I have a turn?"
Yeah.
So, as if it was, one of those rides that you put the money in,
That's right. Yeah, no,
So I looked at his mum, who was absolutely fine. She didn't blink or batter an eyelid, thinking all this disabled person speaks, like some of them do. And she didn't treat me as though I was mentally impaired. Anyway, I said to this little boy, "Would you like to sit on my knee and steer?" So he said, "Yes, please." I said, "Well, you go and ask Mummy." And she said, "Yes." So I sat him on my knee. So we were going around this supermarket with this little boy steering the scooter. Then he would press the little horn,
Oh, yes, yeah.
I had quite good fun.
Children are absolutely fascinated, aren't they? And I've also had guide dogs for the blind, the puppies. We've got a puppy walker close by, and she lets her puppies come and have a sniff round and a climb on and all that sort of thing, so they know what one's like.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
It's
all education, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah.
Yes, really good.
Yeah.
I had one lady tell me she used to go to a group at a local school and read them stories. And the lady was in a wheelchair, and it was good for the children to actually mix with this lady. The lady got so much out of it. And one little girl, it was preschool, so she was probably 4 or something. So she said to her, "What's wrong with your legs?" You see. So the lady said, "Well, they don't work properly." So the little girl said, "Well, why did God give you legs if they don't work properly?"
Oh gosh, that's fun. Out of the mouths of babes and such things.
Only a child could say that.
Exactly, yes.
Well, I'm going off at a tangent here, but what would you say to other people who are contemplating trying LDN?
I'd say try it. Anybody sort of on an MS day when they're collecting, I always say, "Are you on LDN?" Yeah, I'd recommend it completely. It's so worthwhile and makes such a difference. Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us, Sylvia. Okay, that's lovely. Thank you. Bye. Right, now hang on.